Good morning. We're headed out to somebody's property today to give them a hand. They had mentioned in a conversation we were having that they needed a property mowed. They had their own equipment, tractor mower and such, and didn't have anybody to operate it. So I offered to go give them a hand. They said, well, in turn, if you feel like you could use the tractor and mower for yourself on your property, then, go ahead and use it afterwards. So we're gonna go check it out. Haven't been to this property, haven't checked out their equipment, so it'll be good project for us to go look at together. So come along, let's go check it out. Oh, see some of this area off to the right here. Got some horses out there. Definitely looks like there's some stuff that needs to be mowed for sure. Nice little area. Clean properties on either side. Actually, a subdivision on one side. There's certainly some stuff that needs to be mowed out there. See, a real nice place here. Set up for good little horse operation. Got a nice shop and some equipment and houses. What I see out here is what we're gonna need to mow. Because in here around their shop and all, they've already got it mowed really nice, and it's in good shape. But that out there, I can see is them wanting to fix that problem. If you look over here, you see this actual subdivision right next door, and I'm sure maybe fire hazard, but also just, kind of pest management and what have you. This is our, oops, sorry about that, but this is our ride here for the day. Got a John Deere 5045D, got front loader, 3-point hitch. Currently, it's two-wheel drive. You can usually tell from the types of tires they put on. Got a little disc and set up here, so we're gonna go check the oil, see if we can't get things started. Be back with you. We're gonna check the oil on this. I see the filter there is marked for 31021, which is a long time ago. Had 85 hours on it. I haven't checked the hours yet. But here's our dipstick. Pull that out. Oh, that's in good shape. Focus on that there. Nice and clean oil too, so that kind of surprises me. Usually I get something a lot worse, but we'll keep checking some things out here. We got our hood opened up here, and we're gonna check some things out. I see battery looks good, not much corroded, things look tight. I'm gonna check and see here the other side maybe to get a better view of the coolant reservoir. Does look like we're gonna need to check that a little bit better. Overall, kind of inspection, yeah, it's a little dirty especially on the radiators plugged up there. And we'll check the air filter here in just a second. Yeah, pulled the air filter out, and it looks to be just slightly dirty. I'm gonna guess that hours on this thing have not been much since I put that on. Always make sure your air filter gets secured back the way it goes, and then get your caps and everything put back on right. Okay, so I got both hands, but see, inlet is down here. Here's the intake, and everything fits in very nice. So that way when you get everything clipped back together, it's good and secure. You can ruin an engine quicker than intaking dirty air faster than anything. Coolant actually checked out. It was not much in the extra reservoir. Now I'm kind of looking under the seat area, checking for what they have there. I did find out that we got 122 hours on this thing. So definitely not too much from the 85. They don't use it much, if that's all they've used it since 2021. But typically, we could have things like dead batteries. We could have some hydraulic leaks. So I'm looking around. Everything looks really clean on this thing. So I'm not suspecting a problem at all. Need to find probably has a transmission fluid and hydraulic fluid that's a common. In other words, they're the same fluid is used for everything. And then, of course, what's the most important thing we need to check is our fuel level, diesel. That's always the one that somehow gets people. But there's our sight glass. You can see this one here, it says full. And if you look in those glasses, you can tell they look the same. It's always difficult, especially clean fluid, to tell. This to me looks like it's probably a little over full, so we'll keep an eye on it as we get things situated. All right, we got some fuel in it. Let's go find the key. Well, we found our John Deere key, and I was told where to go find it. I didn't put that on video just to keep things safe around here. So, let's go from here. So we got the key stuck in there. We see some lights coming on. I haven't tried starting it yet, but we're making sure that everything's in neutral. Our foot is on. Let's see if she starts. I'd say she starts. Well, Cincher's getting ready to load up here. He's ready to go to work. And we'll let this thing warm up a minute. Don't know how long it's been since it's run. And then we'll move over and get some attachments hooked up. So we have what's called a quick attach. So if you're familiar with 3-points, or if not, I'll try to explain everything. So technically a 3-point hitch is this bar here, the second one over there, and this top one here. And there is, see if I can get a view of it here. So this portion here will rotate inside hydraulically. So you'll raise and lower these arms, which are attached directly to these here, and it'll raise and lower your implements. So your implement in this case is a disc. So this square tubing here is a simpler way of hooking and unhooking this. So you have these two handles over here, and just basically by releasing that, you get away from these pins, and you can see it's just looped there, so you can unhook that. So then we have one more that's right up in here. There's nothing over the top of it, but it's the extending this, what they call the top link, or shortening it will move the position of this hook, and it'll fall away from this pin. It is currently very rusted up, and I found a can of some lubricant, and I spread on it. I got to try to work that loose. It does have a grease zerk. It looks like it's never been greased, and so that could be a problem. We may have to run back into town and get some more, go get a grease gun and get some other spray lubricant on it. But I'm gonna see if I can get unhitched from it. Okay, so here's the view of it detached, and you can see the 3 hooks. You see the top hook and the 2 bottom hooks, and they would hook here, here, and here. So you can see just by raising and lowering it and back up how you could hook up. And so that's called a quick attach. Here's our next thing. This tractor has a couple different ways of doing it. So they have these forks that are clamped onto the edge of the bucket frame. We are gonna take that off because we may never know where we may want to use the bucket. Now, I could take the whole bucket off. I could unpin this on each side, and this is kind of a quick attach. It would frame out from underneath that bucket, and we could leave the whole bucket on the ground and not have to take that with us. But I think we may want to have it out there. We may find some things that need to get pushed out of the way. For instance, a log or some trash, maybe a ball of wire or something like that. So I'd like to have the bucket with me, but this is going to make it a pain in the butt. I can't really use it. So we're going to take that off. So we've got everything freed up here, as you can see. So I've got my adjustments. I'm a little happier with that. I want to get back to getting this bolt in. So now that I have appropriate tools, we probably can get this done a lot quicker. What I want to do is work that spacer into its proper position. This seems to be collapsed too much, so I'm going to try to get that freed up by loosening this and a couple on the bottom. And I'm gonna loosen these down at the bottom also. Let me get you guys turned around. And these are attached with lock nuts here. So the reality is it probably needs to be a little bit loose just to have the proper movement in this hitch that it needs. But we're gonna check that out and decide that. I can tell already it's much looser. Let me reposition you guys again. Things are definitely in a better situation. I have a lot of movement in these two now because everything's not locked up so tight. And those of you that have maybe more experience with this setup will either be telling me, yep, you chose right, or no, not quite right. Here's our experience. Always appreciate comments. So some of this equipment can be very familiar to me, and some can be a little bit like the first time I ever messed with it. So I've never run one of these John Deere mowers, didn't ever have an issue with this shear bolt to know exactly how things were set. And, as you know, there's nobody here, this property, with any experience that helps sometimes shorten up some of that learning curve. So it's, I don't mind talking to people and getting their opinions, but this is a bit of a different situation here. And it is compounded with the fact that I've never messed with one of these John Deere mowers. I tend to be pretty much a John Deere guy, but the more you learn from me, the more you'll find out that I just do what works. I don't really care about the color. So sometimes people have such dynamic brand loyalty, they never look outside the box. And while I wish one company built everything, like, I like Milwaukee, I like John Deere. Obviously, I can't decide on pickup trucks because I have Ford and Dodge, but I know there's another one that I don't like that some of you will probably bash me for, but that's what we're talking about. It's like these things will drive you to drink sometimes when you're just trying to I don't want to force anything because I don't want to damage any threads, but it is tough getting all these lined up so perfectly. If I can just get the one side started without damaging me or the equipment and the threads on this bolt, I'd be much happier. So we got this side started. Okay, so we are working towards a good direction now. And like I say, I think there was a little damage done to this when this bolt broke. I don't know the facts of what they were dealing with, but it's likely everything on this frame was just entirely too tight. And so instead of having the flexibility to move like it's designed to, it probably just snapped that thing. But I think we're on the right track now. There we go. Look what's coming through. And there's really not threads in there, but it fits so tight in that shoulder, I thought that might protect them a little bit more. So now we're through. We got our lock nut again. So lock nuts usually tell me you don't have to be compressed all the way to keep everything tight and have a lock washer. When you see that crown around that nut, that's a lock nut. And so it's designed to get onto those threads and lock in whatever position you leave it. So sometimes that position is slightly loose so that things move just like that. That's what we're looking for out of this hitch. My guess is they had it clamped down like none other. And lost all that movement. So we're going to leave a little bit of that movement. And our threads are locked on. I will give you a different view here to see. Well, I really should have known better. But sometimes that's just how these things go. Not knowing the tractor and the equipment and then what the condition is. It's almost like that first trip out there was just to organize a little bit, see what I had, and then go back and get what I need. So I did do that, went back and grabbed some more tools. Got stopped at a ranch and farm supply store and picked up a Milwaukee grease gun and a case of grease, and I got some blaster to get things freed up. There's just so many things on that tractor haven't been used in so long. So here's the facts on that tractor. We saw the oil change on the filter March of 21. We're in October of 25. All right, so we're over 5 years, but let's just call it a 5-year. That thing has 122 hours on it now. It's virtually a new tractor. And 85 hours was on the oil filters. So that tells me they've put 37 hours on this tractor in 5 years. I mean, that's 5 hours a year, basically. Well, this is a classic example of maybe not knowing what they needed and just went out and bought something. You know, I mean, they bought a John Deere tractor. They got a lot of attachments that are Frontier, which is typically sold at John Deere dealerships. I really wonder if they got just a sales pitch and felt like, oh, I have a piece of property and now I need, you know, a 50 horsepower tractor. I haven't even looked this up to see which horsepower rating this is, you know, and all the attachments. But if you don't use it, you don't need it. Look in the background of what I'm working on and you can see they got a nice place started and they just needed some help. And I just happened to be around in a conversation that my wife was having. My wife actually works with this lady, and you know, she described hiring somebody last year to do it and how much money it cost, and you know, and yet they own the tractor. So I kind of piped up and said, you know, let me help you out. And that's what we're here for at Outlaw, is to help people out. And sometimes we are just making the recommendations. Sometimes we're actually out in the field doing the work. We tailor it to the landowner. All you got to do is get in touch with us, plug into our programs. These are the reasons that these programs will help out. And we really like to see people be prideful of their property. I mean, this is a nice property. You can tell they want to take care of it. They've got a nice, you know, house and barn and fences, and they got a fantastic start. I just don't know what the facts are, and possibly they will become a long-term client. And we're happy to help them out. We may be able to source maybe a sale of this equipment and get them into something that's easier for them. I don't know if they don't run it because they don't understand it. But as much sitting around as that thing is, everything's frozen up. You know, the way things were put together, you saw me trying to fit that spacer in by that shear bolt, and it just wasn't going to happen. And I just got frustrated to the point I was like, screw this, I'm going to get my stuff. You know, if any of this resembles something you have in your operation, or you're fearful of this is what's going to happen to me, call us, DM us, join our membership, and check out a lot of the videos. Get a consultation. You know, we offer free consultations at the beginning, and you know, we can lead you into more depth if you need it. And that's why we do the free consultations, to really find out what you need is. We're here to help. And the continuing videos you're going to see as I work on here, I'm going to try to get as much as I can to really show a perfect example. This job is a perfect example of our ideal client. All right, we're getting ready to pull back in. We'll get this finished up so we can get rolling and actually get mowing. Back here, I'm gonna unbox this Milwaukee. I thought that'd be fun to see. Grease gun. It's an M18. And I've used these in the past. Didn't have one out here with me, and you know, once you use these, it's hard to go back to the lever or the pistol grip. And so I splurged and got myself a new one. And I can't recommend these enough. They will make your greasing game be a lot quicker. that was just kind of way to get it hooked up. So now I'm trying to prime this thing and get all the grease moved through the hose here so that once you see it coming out, you know you got it and you're probably ready. All right, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and grease this top link, which we talked about having a problem with it not really adjusting. So I don't know if you can see, but I did spray some PB Blaster on these threads. Now I'm gonna grease this up. So I've locked it onto my Zert and I'm pumping it. It's expected to be pretty dry, so I'm putting a fair amount of grease in here. Now I'm gonna check and see if I can work this thing to rotate like it's supposed to. It's still pretty well frozen up. We're gonna keep working it back and forth and try to get this thing freed up, because it's definitely in a locked up situation. At this point, I settle for any direction that I can get this thing freed up in. And I'm trying my best to get it freed up with what it's got here without having to put something bigger on it. Ooh, there we got a little bit. Okay, so we got a little bit broken loose now. Look at that starting to move. And we are in business. I'm gonna do a little more. A lot of times when you're working something free, the best way is to kind of move it back and forth both directions and really get fresh lubrication moved all around. It's really easy when there's no implement hooked to this and you just have that quick attach frame. That sure helps. And so I'm working it both directions, in and out. So I don't know if you see it doesn't move fast, but it's moving in and out where we get our adjustments. And that's really gonna make life easier. And I'm really putting it out there, leaning. I'm getting to the point where I'm sure at some point these could come out. So we're gonna move it back and forth here. I did get something in the message from the wife, who was actually the connection I had, and said something about a bolt. So when I got here, I found this setup sitting on the top of this mower. And so I realized what they were trying to tell me is there's this shear bolt that needs to go back into here, and it has this plastic sleeve that helps it slide there. That helps this float. Kind of acts like a shear bolt, I guess. So we need to put the sleeve, and we'll get this thing fixed so we can use this thing. Here's this thing's a little tight, so I'm gonna loosen this, see if I can get this a little bit looser. I'll probably loosen this one and see if we can't get just a little bit more room in here, which is probably why they had some problems with it, I'm guessing. As with always, sometimes on the ranch, you get somewhere and you may not have all your proper tools. So you see me using my nice linesman pliers that I've bragged about having before. And that's because I got nothing else. I got my basic favorites with me. We already looked at this. This tractor has no other support tools in its toolbox because all I need to do is try to get a little bit of tension off of this. I really don't need it very loose per se at all. So this is not, everything's not sliding together as easy as it seems like it should, which, like I say, leads me to believe things were tightened up wrong originally. And I'm trying to not have to run back in to my place to go get some more tools. But I might have to, because this spacer just does not want to fit in there. Let me see if I can actually, and this was likely the issue from the start anyhow. Things just weren't tightened up. I'm gonna go get some supplies. Let me show you a little bit, now that I've got this hooked up, I'm gonna show you what these lock nuts look like and how they work. So that's the lock nut there, and you can see we're on the threads, but in the back here, there's actually still room. Okay, and that's what I'm talking about. If you look and see, I loosened this top one, was really tight, and see the gap that's in between the spacer now? It's like everything can move a little bit and wiggle a little bit. It's on with its lock nut, and it's got threads past that crown, which is all you need for the lock nut. So if you see, we got a lot of movement. We got a little side to side wiggle. So, and I loosened these a little bit. That might have been hard to see in the video, but I barely loosened them, but it was enough to get a little bit of wiggle out of everything here to put it all together. Now it's pretty stout because everything's in place. And as we move with this mower through the field, it's gonna track a little bit. It might move side to side laterally. It may be wanting to float over topography in the ground, which is one of the wheels. You have the adjustable gauge wheel here on the back. So all these things are factors of the adjustments that you can have with these mowers. And when you're doing stuff that I don't know these fields, so I really don't know what to expect. So I want it to have as much movement as I can. If it's not doing the mowing job, I have adjustments, and we'll go through those as I work through that.